Good morning, Toastmasters. Yes, it's another paranormal talk, a little chilling excursion into the beyond. And what we like to look at is, are ghosts real or are they not? And of course, we cannot prove that they're real and we cannot prove that they're not. For example, a small paranormal access, it's available to anybody. I would like to have everybody for a moment close their eyes. I am vanished. Okay. You can open your eyes. Oh, he was just sitting there when we closed our eyes. He didn't really vanish, but how do you know? I'm just trying to get you into the feel of what is true and what is not. And what makes me vim and vigor is honesty. So when we look at a story that someone says, this is a true story, it's wide open for debunking. Now, this is not a literary trick. I honestly forgot when I was making this speech, investigating, and coming up with the idea. I forgot that I had given a speech called Meet the Warrens. Ed and Lorraine Warren, our famous first American ghost hunting demonologists. And this speech could alternately be titled Destroy the Warrens, because I'm going to look at their stories unabashedly in a little bit. But first, I need to tell you a little bit of a symbolic way of debunking. Okay. This has always been a problem for me. If my view was open door, then I could believe anything, anybody, and anything. Someone told me I'm just an open door. I'm susceptible to gullibility. So I'm told open-mindedness is good. Open the door, leave it open. And conversely, closed. I'm skeptical of everything. No, that's not true. No, that can't happen. No, 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 no. I'm just an automatic denier. Closed door. So, how do I resolve this? Well, let's begin with another story, a ghost story, but this one is fiction. Now, I remember back in the lockdown days, of the early COVID, and everyone was getting a little bit antsy inside and starting to affect our mind and mental state. And I heard the story. Someone says to me, hey, if you go to the local cafe at night when there's nobody there, you can see the ghosts of people drinking coffee and talking to each other. And I thought, whoa, really? Oh, I used to be a security guard. I could go there in the middle of the night. So I went. I drove there, drove into the parking lot, stopped, got out of the car, and walked over to the cafe. There's no one there. It's just before 3 o'clock in the morning. No, it's not even the security guard. And the chairs are all packed off to the side, and the tables are there. And then I looked, nothing. Then I looked, there's some shadows. Then I looked, and there was some type of mist. And next thing you know, I'm looking at apparitions of people sitting there with no chairs. And they're drinking coffee, and they're talking to each other. I'm thinking, oh no, it's true. I stepped back. I must have made a noise because they all turned and they looked at me. And then I realized, they're looking at me as if I'm the ghost. They're peering at me across the meta-universe into this dimension and I into theirs. Scene. Fiction. But it's very popular nowadays. So when I look at what's true and what's not, when somebody comes up to me and says, this is a true story, I'm a little bit, what do I say? Apprehensive. Well, not apprehensive. Let me show you something. When we have an open door, we live in Hawaii, close the screen door. Don't let the bugs in. So always close the screen door. Here, let's go for a little bit of a run on, if I get this to work, come on, you can work. Just a minute. Here we go. Close the screen door. always remembered, here is Ed and Lorraine Warren, America's first ghost hunting demonologists. Oh, everyone trusted their stories, and we have the Amityville movies, we have the Conjuring movies, and this is huge business. And they're going, hey, Lorraine, she's psychic. She's a light trance medium. So she walks around and sees what's going on. And she's just walking and talking, and she can see stuff. Ed is a self-proclaimed demonologist. So he can get rid of some of those ghosts. And someone asked Ed, how did you become a demonologist? And he said, well, I was born that way. So I suppose they hand that kind of certificate out when you're born. So I figure Lorraine is a light trance medium, and that's her character. She's walking around in a light trance, and she has a medium character. Ed, who's always kind of a chauvinistic guy, kind of controls everyone's conversation, is a demonologist. He takes over the monologue. They got famous looking at this house, the Amityville Horror House. Now, unbeknownst to everybody else, this house had a bunch of stuff going on that came out in the book, but it's all debunked. The little piggy was the neighbor's cat. The goo coming off the wall was the police fingerprints after the crime. The priest never showed up. The priest never showed up. The big things that happened, broken windows and never haunted, never were there when the next people that showed up. And the people that showed up afterwards and lived in the house said, well, there's nothing wrong with here, and the windows were fine, and the doors, I don't know what you guys are talking about. But they had a book, and it became popular all across America. And when this book became popular, the game was over with. It was this one here. Well, I should stick on topic here. This book here came out, and notice it says a true story. So everyone thought this stuff was true, but it wasn't. And Ed and Lorraine came to this house with a big media production, and they're inside, they're going, oh yeah, this house is full of demons, that's for sure. So Ed and Lorraine, they just showed up, popped at this house, and became famous worldwide. They did come up with a quote that's close enough to hell for me, and they did have this weird picture of someone took with an infrared camera reflecting the eyes of this little kid. That was it. So their next one was the Amityville. I mean, not the after Amityville, there was the Annabelle doll, which is basically no provenance. It's not verified. There's no deaths. The whole thing is story. Annabelle is fake. Now, this next story comes from the Conjuring house. Now, this is the actual Conjuring house. It's been around since the 1700s. It has about 300 years of history. And in it, there's these people that lived in the thing. And down there, you can see this lady standing there all by herself. That is Bathsheba. She lived sort of like next door. Anyways, it's based on their true case files. This is proven not to be true. Bathsheba's just somebody that lived next door. There was no hangings, there was no deaths, and the people in that house are beleaguered by people coming over and terrifying their house. They just, so many tourists, and it's all because of this kind of witch. The Enfield, here's the levitation, everybody. That's the levitation. She's jumping on her bed. You know, when I was a kid, when we were jumping on the bed, we were grounded. When they were on the bed and they're jumping on the bed, they're levitating and they're having major movie production. So, are they innocent, Ed and Lorraine? I mean, I don't know. They never charged for anything, but they got book deals. They got all these university lecturing, $5,000 a lecture. And they got Conjuring movies, all those other things. That's billions of dollars. So, the stories aren't true, and they made lots of money. What can I say? I closed the screen door on that. Thank you. Open for questions if there are any. Sure. believe you. Yeah, your question? Okay. I believe you, and I think there are some things in the paranormal, and I've had a couple myself that I can't explain. And I believe your story, and I thank you for sharing it too. And they say, psychologists say, that when we're developing our sense of believing somebody's story or not, our first thing as a kid, we're thinking, is there self-interest involved? Are you gaining something from it? Like, you're telling me this story, and you're going to get something out of it telling me this story. And you look at your story with this premise, you're not gaining anything by telling that story. You're not profiting from it. And these other stories, they're labeled as true. A lot of it's fabricated by other sources of saying that never happened, that never happened, that never happened. And they made it up. The Amityville Horror, they made up all that stuff, from the neighbor's cat to the demon pig. Was they were drinking wine and making it up on purpose in order to make the book deal. So that's different. But it doesn't disprove paranormal. There's something out there. There is. Anybody else? Yeah, Susie.
I have a question and a comment and a true story. Absolutely true. I bought a house where many of the community members were absolutely terrified of my house and very prejudiced, and would look at my house as they walked by because my house was in the news. And somebody was incredibly murdered upstairs in my house. And it's a very shocking thing. However, my house is haunted, but it's a very good haunting, very drastic haunting. The lady who used to live here, she wants her house taken care of, and doing that, I feel like I'm promoting her legacy in a way. And I know her family. And so the haunting of my house is really not a haunting per se, but it's a real story. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Thank you, Susie. That's fantastic. Yeah, I've heard that a lot of ghost stories, they're very personal, and I believe there is this battle spiritually of good and evil. And when you look at protective things, that's a good. When you look at something that's lying or deceptive, that's not good. And in the Catholic Church, and Ed and Warren Lorraine were Catholic, they said, don't talk to ghosts like for finding out about the future, fortune telling, because you're probably talking to demonic forces. So Ed talks to everybody who would knock on their doors and say, "Oh, you got a haunting? Ed, I'm a demonologist. It's not ghosts, it's devils. But I can help you out. But I'm not going to charge you. But can I have the rights for your book deal?" So the ones I'm talking about are way different. The ones you have and people have, I believe there are real stories, and that really does exist. They're really more gentle and a lot more personal. So it's touchy talking about them sometimes. Thanks. Anyone else? I think we're probably over time. Just real quick.